Those are the questions, and we've got all the answers in this hour of Get Up as we begin right now. I'm Mike Greenberg in New York, and delighted you've chosen to get up with us. Mel is here and the rest of the football crew. We have complete coverage of all of the news from the sports world, but we begin with the impact of the deadly police shooting in Minnesota. The Twins, the Timberwolves, and the Wild all postponed their games following the shooting that sparked massive protests. 20-year-old Dante Wright was killed during a traffic stop in the Minneapolis suburb of Brooklyn Center on Sunday night. Police were trying to arrest him on an outstanding warrant. During a struggle, police say an officer intending to fire a stun gun instead accidentally fired a handgun. Wright's death has led to 2 nights of protests with officers in riot gear clashing with demonstrators. Yesterday, the Twins decided to cancel their game with the Red Sox after consulting with Major League Baseball. The two teams had taken the field to warm up. The national anthem was played before fans were told the game was off. A few hours later, the Timberwolves and the Wild called off their games.
All of us, especially us in Minnesota right now, are tired in a lot of ways of having these types of conversations. And there's a huge disappointment and sadness when you have to wake up to these things.
I just know the frustration is a real thing for everybody and for us. And, you know, you keep hearing this cancel culture stuff, but, you know, we're canceling Black lives. And I think, to me, that's a little, you know, more important, in my opinion. And it just keeps happening. We keep making mistakes on killing Black people.
It just makes you sick to your stomach. You know, it's how many times does it have to happen? And, you know, as sick to our stomachs as we might feel, you know, that individual's dead. He's dead. And his family's grieving, and his friends are grieving. And we just keep moving on as if nothing's happening.
Tensions were already high in Minneapolis due to the ongoing trial of a former police officer charged with the murder of George Floyd. The NBA may try to play the game between the Nets and Timberwolves this afternoon to be in compliance with the curfew. The Twins and Red Sox are expected to start their series this afternoon. The Wild and the Blues will make up their game in May. Of course, if there are any further developments over the course of the next 2 hours, we will let you know. In the meantime, we get to the rest of a busy sports day, and it begins in the NBA with the performance of the night, and that was turned in by Steph Curry. Stephen Curry, the Nuggets and the Warriors in San Francisco, and Curry had himself a night as he was approaching becoming the team's all-time leading scorer. 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and that is Steph. His trademark downtown shot, game tied at 29, putting him 1 basket away from passing Wilt Chamberlain on the all-time Warriors scoring list, and there it is on the very next possession. He had 30 points in the first half, passing Chamberlain to become the Warriors franchise all-time leading scorer, and he was just getting warmed up. Look at the handles. He's running back down court long before that one goes through the net. 1.5 minutes to go now in the third. Look at the ball movement from the Warriors. The ball will eventually find Curry, and Curry will once again find the bottom of the net. 53 points for Steph Curry last night. Warriors win it 116-107.
It's been on my mind for a little bit just because I've been asked about it. I know the milestone was here, and I mean, you throw Wilt Chamberlain, his name out in NBA history, that's unbelievable. But in Warrior history, to be at the top of that list, so many people that contributed to that, and it was a special moment for sure. I don't think it's really sunk in, but I'm going to enjoy that one.
So again, Steph's 53 points put him ahead of Chamberlain for the Warriors' scoring record, which was the oldest franchise scoring record among active teams in the entire league. He is now the 4th player to be a franchise's all-time leader in points and assists and threes. Huge night for Steph Curry. Meanwhile, it is time for a mock draft alert here on Get Up. Brand new off the presses, Mel Kiper Jr.'s Mock Draft 4.0, which is now available on ESPN Plus, and here are the highlights. No surprise at the top. Mel has Trevor Lawrence going number 1 overall to Jacksonville. With Sam Darnold now in Carolina, Mel has the Jets taking Zach Wilson at 2. The 49ers, who traded up to the Dolphins spot, have moved up from 12 to 3, and Mel has them taking Alabama quarterback Mac Jones. So no big surprises there. At 4, here comes a new trade. The Dolphins moving up into Atlanta's spot to take Florida's superstar tight end Kyle Pitts. With that 6th pick, then the Falcons would take Trey Lance, the quarterback from North Dakota State. And then another trade at 10 overall. Mel forecasting the Patriots to move up from 15 to the Cowboys spot to take Ohio State's Justin Fields. And so here it is, the new top 10 in its entirety. It includes Joe Burrow getting protection, with the Bengals taking Penei Sewell from Oregon. 2 receivers in the top 10. You see them there, Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith. And the first defensive player would be Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons, going to Denver at number 9. And here he is, Mel Kiper, as we are just 2 weeks and change away from the draft. And this is fascinating. People will look at this and say Bill Belichick never does this. But, of course, for the last 20 years, he hasn't had to do it because he's had Tom Brady. Why do you see Bill Belichick moving up here to take Fields?
I think the pressure to get that quarterback, Greeny. When you're in a division with Josh Allen and Tua and Zach Wilson, now you have to go get somebody like Justin Fields, who I think is the second best quarterback in this draft. Some agree, some strongly disagree. Some think he's the 5th, 6th best quarterback in this draft, if you can believe that. But I think when you look at the mixed opinion, could allow him to slide down when we know the top 3 are locked in. Then it becomes Trey Lance or Justin Fields for the 4th spot. If it is, in fact, Trey Lance, that's kind of consensus I heard when I made the calls over the weekend, Greeny, then Justin Fields is available. Now, does Denver, what happens with the Washington football team, what happens with Chicago? There are other teams that could make that move. But I think New England, to me, is front and center. Whether they want to stay at 15, they could. But then who's going to be their quarterback? Down the road. Think about next year's quarterback. So you're going to have the number 1 pick in 2023 to get the guy? Maybe not. Probably not. So I think when you look at New England, if Justin Fields does slide, the opportunity then presents itself for teams like New England, Greeny, to move up and get him.
So many things you say require unpacking. We will circle back on Fields' stock slipping, and we will circle back on whether or not Mac Jones is or is not a lock at 3. But let me bring the rest of the crew in, and let's all get at this morning. There we go. Louis Riddick has gotten up with us early today. David Pollack is with us, and Jeff Darlington gets up early as well. And so, Louis, let me go there to you. You played for Bill. You know Bill Belichick well. Again, for the last 20 years, he's never taken a quarterback in round 1, but obviously he hasn't had to. What do you think of the idea that he may get very aggressive in 2 weeks in finding the true ultimate successor to Tom Brady?
I think he'll explore it. There's no question about that. I think he understands that although he has Cam Newton under contract, he still has to look further down the road and whether or not he believes, that Cam Newton is ultimately the future over the next 3 or 4 years or not. He has to make that decision. And I believe they're going to be looking to get a quarterback. It's just a matter of whether or not, the price is right in order for him to move up to get one. I think Bill is one of the best value players when it comes to moving up and down the draft board that we've ever seen outside of Jimmy Johnson. And I think he will take a hard look at this, but he will not force this issue. I think, look, you have to understand whether you like this or not. The reason why they have Cam back in the fold is so they didn't feel as though they were going to be forced into doing something that didn't make sense for them from a cost basis. And if it doesn't make sense for them from a cost basis, what they'd have to give up in order to move from 15 to 10 in this scenario, then they won't do it. And they will go ahead and they will ride with Cam for 2021. They will bank on the fact that he will be much better than he was in 2020, and they'll readdress it again a year from now. They will not force anything, though, no matter what the position.
So, David Pollack, let me come to you then on that thought, because you and I have been talking about this now going all the way back to the middle of the last college football season. And while Mel moves a lot of pieces around, what remains in place is a projection that Fields is the 5th quarterback off the board. So, David Pollack, as one who covers the college game for us as closely as anyone, what is your perspective on Fields being number 5 in this draft?
I'm okay with it. When I look at Justin Fields, when you talk about Justin Fields in the pocket, just straight accuracy, it's stupid. Let's not talk about deficiencies there. You give him time, he's clean, he knows what's going on, dude. He is ridiculously insane. So I love that part about him. I think one of the misnomers about Justin Fields is when you look at him and you think 6'3", 225, 4'4", you think he's going to be a guy that's scrambling around, always buying time, making plays. He's not really that guy. That's not his. He's not a scramble around Johnny Manziel. He's not a scramble around, buy time, make a bunch of big plays. I look at Justin Fields, I think he has the potential to be absolutely insane, but I do see some of the critiques that some people are saying, and it's okay, by the way. I'm not hating on Justin Fields. I do see him hang on to his number one wide receiver too long. I do see some great traits with him, but I understand why people wouldn't say he's my number one quarterback or my number two quarterback, and why he would be 4 or 5 down the list for some people.
All right, so we will keep an eye on that, obviously. These things remain somewhat fluid, and he has another pro day coming up this week.